It's been an interesting few days ever since Virat Kohli called out Sourav Ganguly and the clashing storylines. Kohli, now the Test captain, ODI captain back then, was apparently asked by the board president, Sourav Ganguly, to not give up his T20 captaincy. But at a fiery press conference on Zoom that had nearly 100 journalists locked in and over 100 locked out, he denied. Listen into the Indian captain.
Whatever was said about the communication that happened during the decision that was made was inaccurate. जब T20 कैप्टनसी को छोड़ने की मैंने पहले BCCI से कम्युनिकेट किया, सबसे पहले मैंने BCCI को अप्रोच किया कि मेरा ये पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है, ये डिसीजन है और इन रीजंस की वजह से मैं ये करना चाहता हूं, तो उसको बहुत एक अच्छे तरीके से रिसीव किया गया. उसमें कोई ऑफेंस नहीं थी, उसमें कोई हेजिटेशन नहीं थी, उसमें मुझे ये नहीं कहा गया था कि आप T20 कैप्टनसी ना छोड़िए, बल्कि उसको बहुत अच्छे से रिसीव किया गया कि बहुत एक प्रोग्रेसिव स्टेप है और सही डायरेक्शन में है. तो उस टाइम मैंने कम्युनिकेट किया था कि जी हाँ, मैं ओडीआई और टेस्ट में कंटिन्यू करना चाहूंगा, अनलेस कि ऑफिस बेयरर्स और सिलेक्टर्स को लगे कि मुझे ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं करनी चाहिए. और ये भी मैंने कॉल पे क्लैरिफाई किया था उस टाइम पे. तो मेरा कम्युनिकेशन बीसीसीआई को क्लियर था उस टाइम से कि मैं क्या करना चाहता था. और मैंने ये जैसे बोला कि मैंने ये ऑप्शन भी दिया था कि अगर ऑफिस बेयरर्स और सिलेक्टर्स को लगता है कि मुझे नहीं करना चाहिए तो वो डिसीजन उनके हाथ में.
Now, several editorials have been written since. Sunil Gavaskar has said usage of one word while announcing his resignation from T20 captaincy bruised some egos and cost Kohli his job. Kapil Dev has spoken too. He has asked both men not to wash their linen in public. We've also heard one line from Sourav Ganguly. He said, leave it to BCCI. Now let's hear from some experts. Our experts today are sports administrator and columnist Amit Mishra. He joins me. I'm also joined by sports broadcaster Charu Sharma. Amrit, it's been an interesting week. I read your column. You call it a surgical strike on Virat Kohli. Would you like to explain?
Well, I think, we have to look at this thing in the context of what's been happening for a while. After the World Cup, there was this announcement from Kohli that he's giving up T20 captaincy for workload management. And now the test team for South Africa was being announced. The selectors met. And at a meeting to decide the test squad, they, in a one line at the bottom, sacked Virat Kohli as the ODI captain. So part one of this drama is, I think, the disrespectful sacking of the Indian captain. For a moment, forget Virat Kohli, forget everybody else, let's not take names, but the position and the stature of the Indian captain, cricket team captain, is being undermined and diminished by this disrespectful sacking. To me, that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is that the selectors are totally correct, perhaps from a cricket standpoint, to have one white ball captain. So that cricket logic also is very tenable. But what was the need to announce this when you are actually selecting the test? Whenever you select the ODI squad, the change of captaincy could have been advised at that time. So I think this episode of, Kohli being stripped of captaincy, the manner in which it was done, the manner in which it was announced, I think was wrong. I don't think it does credit to anybody that a person who's captain an ODI side in 95 for India, who himself as a cricketer is among the best ever we've had. I show respect to the position of the Indian captain, show respect to the gentleman. You are totally, in your sort of scope of work to change the captain when you want it. The selector's job is that. But the manner, I think, left a bad taste in the mouth.
Charu, let me come to you. The story doesn't end there. Thereafter, Virat Kohli said that Sourav Ganguly, who claimed that he had asked Virat Kohli not to step down from T20 captaincy, in fact, did not tell him that. So, perhaps Virat Kohli is saying that Sourav Ganguly is lying. How do you react to all of this?
Whoa. Well, I'm not Saurabh, I'm not Virat, so I don't know what exactly transpired between the two of them, but I agree with everything Amrit has said so far. I will add one critical word to all of this, which is a word that's important for all of us to lead our lives well, called communication.
Then what I'm trying to understand is, Charu, would you say that this has been one of the biggest public relations disaster by the BCCI?
In recent times, for sure, because, they're not short of public relations disasters, and one would think that they would learn from all of this and just make sure that the communication lines are very clear. After all, there aren't 5,000 people. For the cricket board to communicate with its own cricket captain is just such an easy process. You pick up the phone, you have a little chat, either for the board and or for the selectors. Hopefully they're working in tandem to figure out a line of communication saying, okay, Virat, now we didn't really want you to be, we didn't want you to leave the T20 captaincy. You did. So we figure that it may be nice to have a white ball captain in general rather than 20 and 50 different. So if it's okay with you, I think we'll go with somebody else and blah, blah, blah. And Kohli would have said whatever he would have said and they would have sorted it out. Why can't such a simple phone call be made between people who are in charge of the game in the country? Instead of all this unseemly controversy and then one holding a press conference alone and then the other one alone, like they don't work together, like they're, on different planets. So for me, this is a communication exercise failure. And of course, all the rest of the disrespect and what have you. I don't know what the backstory is, and that'll only lead to more rumor and conjecture. But communication, please. And I will say once again that Saurav Ganguly, who's, a good friend to so many of us, was also very upset with the cricket board when his sunset days were there, saying that, your communication was very poor. You didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that. You're sacking a captain. I've played so much for India. I think he should have done well to remember that time and say, hey, this is not how we do it. We pick up the phone and we talk to people, we discuss it, and then we do it jointly as in a mutually agreeable path forward.
Amrit, what also seems really odd to me is that there's no word or there is no one line of communication from the chairman of selectors. Does then one believe that all powers, even the powers of selection, which ideally in earlier days we saw secretaries signing off on the team, all powers are vested in one man right now?
I'm sure the selectors decide. We don't know the actual deliberations of the selection committee. But yes, I think we should revert to the system where the selectors choose a team, they go to the press, they explain the decisions, they answer questions. So there's no speculation, there's no doubts about why a decision has been taken. I think, as Charu mentioned, communication is key, and especially in today's time with of social media, instant news, everybody getting involved. I think clear communication is an absolute must. And if you stop the chairman of selection committee or the selectors to come out in the open, explain the choices and the decisions, it only adds to the mess. So I think you must revert to the system where the chairman or somebody from the selection committee explains the decisions taken and you move on.
Charu, we've seen, Dalmia and Ganguly work very closely, Srinivasan and Dhoni. Coming to these two, would you say this has become a battle of control of turf?
I hope not. Because these are very different turfs. One is in administration, one is in selection, one is in playing. And those who are in the administration right now, certainly the president, is very aware that the players are a completely different set of people and they must be treated with that level of respect and individuality. So, if it's a turf war at all, where one side's kind of, trying to boss over the other side, it's very unfortunate. They all play different roles and eventually all these tracks merge for the benefit of cricket in India. So why should there be parallel tracks which are working in different directions or tracks that are diverging, not converging? Defies the very purpose of different units trying to work together for a sport. It reeks of a turf war, but I sincerely hope it's not. And it's just people not, a little bit of petulance here, there and the other about the fact that they were not consulted or there was no real discussion.
Amrit, would you like to add to that?
No, I think Charu's right. That these are totally different functions. The administrators, the selectors, and the players. Each has his role, and all of them put together constitute Indian cricket, and they work together for the betterment and improvement of Indian cricket. So, while there will be occasions where there will be that a bit of stepping on each other's toes, that happens everywhere in any organization, but the roles are clearly defined, and it's best for each to stay within that role and work together with the others. So I just hope that the right lessons are learned from this. It puts Indian cricket in poor light. It shows that there is a huge sort of gap in the governance at the moment. If the captain and the cricket board president are at absolute opposite ends of a discussion, so that's not a good thing for Indian cricket and the image it has all over the world. And I think the important thing is it was so avoidable. This is not a major controversy or a major crisis where something's happened beyond your control. As Charu said, this is a very simple thing, and we should never have come to a situation where it's become a crisis. This was a straightforward cricket decision, a straightforward communication matter of announcing the decision in the right manner. I don't think it's very complicated, but I think we have somehow messed it up, and it'll take us time to recover from this trust deficit between the two key people, which is the captain and the president.
Now, Charu, let me ask you, when Kohli resigned from his T20 captaincy, should he have resigned from ODIs then? As in, did he not read writings on the wall?
Obviously not. I mean, he, in his own mind, if I can speak for him, must have had some sort of an installment plan. Okay, listen, I'm under a lot of pressure. We don't like this quarantine. We don't like this bubble. I'm captaining all three formats. And yes, I can do it with reasonable ability, but my form may be also suffering because of all the extra pressures a captain goes through. So I'm going to let it go step by step. Let go the T20 captaincy because, it's just a aim and shoot kind of game. It's a shootout. So somebody else can handle it. As a captain, I may or may not be able to make too much of a significant difference. So I'll hang on to the ODIs for a while and let that go also soon as an installment plan. And last, of course, I should keep my test captaincy because as most cricketers do, they value test cricket and test cricket captaincy as the ultimate pinnacle. So in his mind, it must have been an installment plan. But I think somewhere along the way, somebody got upset at the fact that he is picking and choosing what he wants to do, and that the board and or the selectors should be in charge. I just think they probably didn't mean it, but what they should be saying is that I'm happy to offer my services for India if the selectors want it, for as long as they want it. And if I really don't want to play cricket anymore, I'll make it evident. So instead of saying I will play as if they're in charge of the selection. So maybe this is just a sort of not understanding the power of accurate communication.
Amit, would you say that, would you agree on that as well? Because that's something Sunil Gavaskar also has said, that perhaps Kohli didn't word his retirement exit letter better or exit message better.
Listen, I think, what Charu mentioned about an installment plan could be correct. That he wanted to shed some workload, so he decided to do away with T20 captaincy and things. And maybe, as others have pointed out, that his wording was maybe not correct, not appropriate. But put that aside for a moment. Fine, it was inappropriate. He should have, as Charu said, mentioned that he'd be available for ODI captaincy, etc. Fair enough. But once he communicated his mind to the BCCI, and if what he was suggesting as his installments plan was not acceptable, the selectors could have told him right then that, you're stepping away from one format will lead to maybe two captains of the white ball game, which will not work. So maybe this reconsideration could have taken place at that time itself. So you allowed him to, give up T20 captaincy. Then you realized it's not working. Then you sacked him. And you sacked him in a manner where there's utter lack of communication. So I'm coming back to the point that the entire thing was so avoidable. With some kind of foresight, vision, understanding from both sides, from Virat's side and the selector's side, this could have been avoided altogether.
Now, Charu and Amrit, both of you, this question is for both of you, and I'll let Charu answer first, and I'll just put you in a bit of a spot by asking if, and we don't know if one of them will indeed be proven wrong in times to come. If one is proven wrong, whether it's Sourav Ganguly or Virat Kohli, should that man then resign? Just for the sake of their own honor.
Rika, the media loves this word resign. I mean, what do you mean resign? You've been given a responsibility, you live up to it. And if you make an error, you own up to it. Or if you want to discuss it further or, sort of have an argument or discussion, discuss. But resigning doesn't achieve anything. If you start resigning because of some error or the other, nobody will hold a position, or any position anywhere in the world ever. Because, we are all human and we err. But I will go back and say that it's all very unseemly because, Rika, what did it take you? You wanted to talk to me, whether you wanted me in your podcast or not. You said you pick up the phone. Can you be there? How easy is communication? And if you're on the same page doing the same thing, in the same activity, which is cricket for India, just pick up the phone, discuss it and tell him, as Amit said, that listen, you gave up T20 captaincy. We feel the selectors that it may not be tenable to have, 3 different captains or whatever. So we'll just have 1 white ball and 1 red ball. I hope that's okay with you because you might have planned on leaving ODI captaincy a little later. But, if it's okay, you might want to leave it now. I'm sure Virat Kohli will either agreed or they've agreed on some path that, okay, 1 more series and out or whatever else it may have been. But we can't have, adults talking to the media separately and independently. It's all very, almost, if I can use the term, immature. And of course, what happens here is that the media then, I have noticed, I'm a part of it, then feeds on all of this and everything is 10x.
Absolutely. They have given us a lot of fodder over the last few days. Amrit, let me hear you on that.
Well, you asked about resignation. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think the matter will pass for the moment. What's happened has happened. And I think part of this intense speculation, discussion will anyway, reduce once the cricket starts in about 10 days' time. For a week's time from now.
Okay, now finally, I have to ask you, Kohli of course remains the test captain. Having been poked, is it a good thing? They say don't poke the bear. And Kohli is waiting for a century for a very, very long time now. Do you think it's going to do him good, Amrit?
Well, I don't think this makes a difference to his cricket. I'm sure he's as motivated.
You think so?
I think he was as motivated and as keen on success and performing even before this happened. Listen, he's played almost 100 test matches. He's on the verge of becoming maybe an all-time great of the game. So I don't think he needs this controversy to stir him up and to make him a better player. I think he has his own commitment, his own drive, his own motivation, and he'd be trying to score runs every time he goes out. So I don't think that's going to change.
Taru, what do you think?
I've always believed in the white line fever. I mean, you cross the line when you enter the arena, any court, any ground, any sporting arena, you leave everything behind. That's the mark of a true professional. I can understand if you're a newbie, a newcomer, and you say, well, I don't know, my mother told me this, my father said this, and my coach said this, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? These guys are hard-boiled professionals. When they cross that line, they enter the field. The only thing that matters, and they know it, is performance. Every time a cricketer or any sports person enters any arena, the only thought in the mind is, I've got to do really well today. Nobody wants to go in there and play badly because of some other external reason. So, no, this is not going to have any effect on Virat Kohli. Anytime he goes into bat, he knows he's got to score the runs for himself, for his team, and for his longevity.
And perhaps the dust on this issue will also settle very soon because India's target right now is winning a series against South Africa. They have never won a series against South Africa. So that's perhaps will be the primary target of Virat Kohli and his men. And of course, Sourav Ganguly, we will keep hearing from him. Not now perhaps, but a little later when he does his media interviews once again. Thank you very much, Amrit and Charu, for joining me on the podcast.
Most welcome.
Thanks.
Lovely to be with Amrit.
Thanks, Charu. Thank you.
Thank you.